Yes, you did.
Welcome to another session with Books and Things. And today I have a local author from Essex. His name is Doug Seaver. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Tom.
And you wrote a book called
The Fourth Rule.
The Fourth Rule. And it sounds interesting. And Doug has been, in 2007, Doug had a book published by a nautical publishing company.
Yes.
And his nonfiction book, Far Across the Atlantic.
Yes.
How's that doing? Is it still in print?
It's actually out of print. We had an initial run of, I think it was 1,000 books. We sold them out, and then the publisher went out of business. So, despite my best efforts.
Wow. He just couldn't afford to make any more.
Well, it was a very specialized publisher.
Oh,
Did books on boating and motorcycles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's probably not a lot of boat books. Well, there is. If you go to the Mystic Seaport, there's tons of them now.
Yes, exactly.
And in March of 2008, George Namick gave the book a full-page laudatory review in the boating world. Well, that's cool.
Gave the book quite a bit of visibility, and then the second review in Circumnavigator really helped out a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was a magazine for people who were interested in long-range cruising in their boat.
Okay.
Obviously, going across the Atlantic Ocean is a long-range cruise, so I had a very specific audience. No.
And he had a short story in 2010 called The Auction, and it won second place in an annual Writer's Journal. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So. Wow. So anyway, what got you started on writing?
Well, in 2005, my son and I and my brother-in-law and a friend of ours from British Columbia went across the ocean in a 50-foot trawler. And I thought, in addition to the pictures we took, I would keep a journal of what went on. And when I got back, I wrote up the journal, and my idea was to give it to the other crew members as kind of a remembrance, if you will. But my wife was the one who prodded me. She said, well, it's a pretty interesting story. Why don't you see if somebody's interested in making it a book? So I looked up nautical publishers. And I found 5, and I wrote away, and a couple of them were interested, and in the end, one turned out to publish it. And that got me started.
Yeah.
That reawoke my interest in.
It's funny how you write a book without even thinking about it. All of a sudden you think, I'm going to write a book. And then you're hooked.
It was addictive, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to write more.
yeah, it was. So, and I was retired, so I had a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
And boating and writing were my 2 interests, and then I kept up with the writing. Yeah.
That's cool. Now, what is the idea on this book?
Well, I'll give you a quick snapshot of the story. In 1961, a young soldier returns from Vietnam. He retreats to his family's hunting camp in Maine and disappears. In 1983, 22 years later, the CIA sends 2 private investigators to question Matthew Grant, his younger brother, about his older brother's disappearance. And Matthew says to the investigators he doesn't know anything about it. They don't believe him, and the adventure begins. So the CIA mounts a fairly rigorous manhunt to find out what happened to his older brother. At the same time, Matthew teams up with a newspaper reporter. And they try to find out, why is the CIA interested in his brother after 22 years, over 2 decades? And the mystery of what happened to his brother is kept until the very end of the book, the last paragraph, in fact.
Oh, wow.
And when it's revealed, the readers come to know what the secret of his brother's disappearance was, but none of the characters in the book do.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I love a good mystery, and because I do read a lot of books, and I find local authors, even though we don't become really famous,
right,
are good writers, very good writers. I've read some. I don't read romances more often, And yet I had one lady, I read 2 of her books. Fantastic. I was
that's great.
impressed. And, and you talk to people, so you read this? This is a local author, you have to read the book. Oh, I like this guy or that guy. And I said, you're missing the boat. You know, there's a lot of people missing the boat if they don't start reading some of the local authors, because there's some great books out there.
Yes.
I'm reading one now on spirits.
Oh.
Lady is a spiritualist and spiritual healer. Unfortunately, I can't follow a lot of it because I'm not sure what she's really saying. I'm getting the gist of it, but it's just it's a fantastic book about how she's got into the healing business and just what it's all about.
Good.
Now, where did you get the title for the 4th rule?
One afternoon, I was thumbing through Bartlett's sayings and quotations. I was really just looking in the index for anything that pertained to secrets. And I found a passage that cited that King Charles I of England had 12 personal rules he lived by. And his 4th rule was, tell no secrets. So at first I thought, maybe it's a good title for the book, Tell No Secrets, but it almost sounded maybe a little misleading, like it could be a domestic story.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, the 4th rule, that's mysterious enough, and that's how I came up with the title.
That's cool.
It was just luck.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, because titles of everything. That title's got to grab a person.
Right.
And that's a good one. And how long have you been writing?
Well, I've been writing since 2005, so about 9 years. For 2 of those 9 years, I went to the Stanford online certificate program in creative writing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, once I'd written the nonfiction book, I got interested in writing and started to look on the internet, and they have courses all over that you can take. So I took one, and then I discovered this Stanford program. So I applied and got accepted and stuck with it for 2 years. Wow. So that was good.
It took me 10 years to write my first book. Wow. I think this 3rd one's going to take as long.
Do you?
If I don't sit down and start writing. I've got about 4 chapters written in the last 2 months.
It's funny how life intervenes like that, right? You just think,
away.
Come on.
Oh, I got a great idea. I'll sit down and type the idea, and then something else happens, and I forget about it, and it's on to the next thing. Right. So it's very difficult, especially if you're married, have children, or whatever, you got a family.
You have those obligations, right?
Yeah, and they don't understand. I talked to one guy, and he said, I think his kids are all grown, and he said, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I lock myself in the room, and my wife is not to touch me for eight hours.
Wow.
And then he goes out. But he wrote it's a historical book, and it's all the little numbers on them, and you got references.
Dates and all of those, yeah.
Oh, man. But it's a super book. But again, he does an 8-hour shift. It's like going to work.
Right. I get about 4 hours in. I start in the morning. Yeah. I get up at 7 o'clock, have a cup of coffee, and think about what I'm going to write. And then if I'm lucky, I can write till 11 or 11:30. And I take a break, and my wife and I have lunch and plan the rest of our day.
And then the day's shot.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to get back.
Or the day's beginning. And that makes it tough. And when I was married, it's tough to sit down and, all right, don't bother me for a little bit. And what?
Exactly. The phone rings, and yes.
Now, how familiar are you with the settings in the book? Have you lived and worked in those places, or?
Yes, for the most part I have. It's an international suspense story, so the hero lives in Madison, Connecticut.
Okay.
So while I live in Essex, Connecticut, I'm really familiar with Madison. We go to R.J. Julia, the bookstore down there, or the movie theater, and we've driven around. So we know Madison. The hero, Matthew Grant, meets his romantic interest in a Christmas party in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
And people who I tell that to, who read it in the book, they say, do they really have Christmas parties in a Muslim country? And the answer is yes. At one point in my life, I was traveling around the world, working, and I actually went to a Christmas party in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The consulate held it, and was for U.S. citizens only.
Yeah.
So they had Marines with their dress blues on.
Yeah.
And they looked pretty intimidating, but they checked your passport and then they checked your invitation. And so we went to a Christmas party there. So yes, I've worked in Saudi Arabia for about 4 or 5 years, traveling back and forth.
Yeah.
So I've been there. Part of it takes place in Pakistan, and I've been there working. And the last place is Luzerne, Switzerland, and I vacationed there. So,
wow.
So I have been to those
So you've
places.
managed to pick on a lot of your experiences and build them into the book.
I have this intuitive kind of memory about what the places were like.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget, well, what was the name of that hotel, or if there's a restaurant in there. But the internet saves me. I can always Google it. But I still have that feel about, this is really how I ought to describe the setting.
No. Yeah, because that reminds me, I mentioned this last week or week before, that I read a book, and the guy was in Litchfield County, and the next thing he's on 95 heading to Stonington, and I'm going, how in the world did he do that?
Oh, that's right. Litchfield is west, and 95 goes north and south. Right, exactly.
Wow. But you know, you pick up the things, the people who live here pick that up.
Oh, they can pick it up all the time.
Oh, yeah. But somebody living down in Florida, sounds good to him. Now we just discussed your routines and habits, and that's cool. Now, how many pages a day?
Well,
That's a tough one.
it is tough. I probably average 5 pages a day. So there's a morning that I'm really ripping through, and I know exactly what the scene, the chapter's going to be all about, and I can get 10 pages done.
Yeah.
But my routine is to always read what I wrote the day before. And so
Okay.
that gives me a first edit of it.
Yeah.
And then I also get in the flow of the dialogue or the narration.
Yeah.
And then write on from there. So maybe five pages a
Now,
day.
do you give it to your wife to check too, or?
Not 5 pages at a time. I would wear out her patience, but I do give her half a book, 3/4 of a book, and the final book. Yes, she is my, what do they call them, beta reader, my
Yeah.
very first reader, yes.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend, I pass everything on to her, let her read it.
Right.
I'll do it 2 or 3 pages at a time, maybe a chapter.
Oh, wow.
And, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, otherwise I'll go back and correct a whole bunch of stuff. So a little at a time.
Right, right.
And I had a guy on here one night, and he wrote a book, a children's book, in sections, and mailed it out to 5 or 6 people.
Oh, wow.
And the 5 or 6 people said, well, instead of doing this, why don't you do this?
Right.
And gave him all kinds of ideas. He'd bring it back, and he'd send it out again with the new ideas incorporated. And he ended up writing the whole book like that, using these 5 or 6 people as, and I was one of them, that you could find little ideas and change them. And so he
Right.
completed the book.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is. When I finished the 4th rule, I sent it out to just to 2, maybe 3 people,
Yeah.
friends, and asked them to read it, and then incorporated their comments. And everybody was different. I was really amazed. Some people only read it for typos, and
Yeah.
at that point I had misspelled words and just typos that the computer hadn't caught for one reason or another. Other people were focused on different things. Oh, I don't like this character well enough, or this isn't clear enough. And
Those are the ones you really like.
yeah, the ones that help
Yeah.
you with the story and they get it straight.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a lady in Pawcatuck that is a crackerjack on grammar.
Oh,
and
good.
you know, spelling here or there. And she's not an editor, but she's fantastic for picking up little errors.
Oh boy. Well, I had my best luck with a copy editor. I didn't understand fully what a copy editor did until I had somebody help me write a query letter when I was going to solicit agents. And they not only helped me with the query letter, but they corrected the grammar and they formatted it. And I thought, I thought I wrote pretty well and it was pretty clean, but they really picked up just enough stuff that I could see how it could be annoying. So I sent my draft off to a copy editor, and I learned about things like the Oxford comma, or in the subjunctive mood, we use the singular tense anymore in modern writing, not the plural sense. All of the, and the M dash. I never knew what the M dash was, but you learn all those things if you work with a copy editor.
I don't know what an M dash is.
Oh, well, when you want to separate out a concluding, usually, phrase, and a colon and a comma don't work, you usually put, I used to put space dash space.
Okay.
But the M dash connects the last letter in the last word to the first letter in the beginning of the phrase. And it's just a technical way that they do it, and it shows up on the computer that way. So I went through all of that.
And people think it's easy to write a book.
Well, the good thing, though, about the copy editor was I was sending out letters, query letters, to agents, and I'd send out 3 or 4, and I was ready to send out 3 or 4 more. And the copy editor said, you know, I know an independent publisher out in California that is really moving beyond mystery books now. The Oak Tree Press is the name. And they'd been in business maybe 15 years at that point, and they'd done primarily mysteries, all kinds, police procedurals, cozy mysteries, whatever. And they were expanding into memoir and thrillers. I mean, just kind of an odd combination. And so she, my copy editor, was the one who said, hey, here's the acquisitions editor. I'll put in a good word for you, send the book. And that's how I found a publisher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're traditionally published.
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
They send you a big check and all that stuff.
They sent me a check.
Oh, they did. So, yeah. I guess the days of big checks are gone.
Well, maybe if you write for one of the big 5 publishers, and if you're Nelson DeMille or Greg Iles or somebody like that.
James Patterson.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because most of the people I deal with are self-published.
Oh, right. Yep.
Including myself.
Yep.
And I'd like to get a publisher, especially for my my son Todd book. Go national. So what kind of advice do you have for aspiring authors?
I think that 2 things are important. One is, what I'll say is, be persistent and immerse yourself in writing. Not only the act of writing, but in taking online courses about writing, in reading craft books, in reading other books in your genre. I really think that you need to be familiar with what's going on in the industry, to go to conferences and things like that and hear other people speak. That's important. So immerse yourself in that, to almost treat it as a hobby, just getting immersed. But be persistent. It's a tough field, and people are not readily published. There are just so many people out there trying to write, and the field gets very crowded and it gets very noisy. But if you're persistent, you get a little break, you get another little break. It never quite matched my fantasy of being a world-famous author, but every little step really helped, and I think persistence paid off.
I think I wrote my first book. Like I said, it took me 10 years to write it.
Right.
And it didn't start out as a book. It started out as a memoir that I was going to pass down to my grandson. And as the years went on, and I kept writing and writing, and people kept saying, you got to make it a book. I don't know anything about books. And so I finished it and got it printed. I paid dearly. I got one of those print-on-demand companies. And
yep.
It cost me $1,300.
Oh, wow.
But I've heard of others that are really pricey.
Yeah.
And but I was happy with them, and they're a good company. They published the book and sent me copies to sell. And
oh, good.
And I used them for 10 years, and then a couple of years ago I swapped over to another publisher.
Right.
But the thing was that I wrote the book. I had no idea what I was doing. None. Just writing a book. And then, of course, I get involved with Kappa.
Yeah.
And I start learning these things, and I'm booking all these different guests. And you go, what do you mean design the book? You just design a book, you write the pages. Oh, no, you got to have certain fonts, you got to have certain this and certain, and the guy will charge you $500 or $600 for that. And then you have to have the editor, that's another $500 or $600. And once you get through, you're spending some money.
That's right.
And you haven't even got it published yet.
No. You learn a lot. When you put
do.
at least for me, I wasn't a 15 or 16-year-old kid who wanted to be an author. I wasn't a 25 or 30-year-old young man who wanted to be an author. I came to it late in life. And like you, I wrote for a different reason initially. And then somebody said, hey, make it a book. And then you do that kind of thing, and then it begins to bug you. You get really addicted and interested.
And then, like you say, you take a couple of courses, you learn this and you learn that. We've got a couple of people that design the cover. They'll decide the print on the cover. You tell them what kind of cover you want, and they'll do the cover, and then they'll have this other guy come in and do the print for you to make it stand out better. And my first cover, I went in, I knew exactly what I wanted, and it cost me $300 to get it done. And the girl said, oh, she said, well, this is good. And the first time she laid it down, that was it, perfect, leave it alone.
Oh, boy, good.
And she said, well, let me change this, change this. She did about 5 or 6 changes. I said, well, go back to the original, that was it. And it, she hit, really. I knew what I wanted, but I couldn't do it. You know, I don't know how to work with those programs and design this. And so I was very happy with it.
Oh, that's great.
And as far as editing is concerned, my friends edited it.
Oh, yeah.
Still a lot of mistakes.
Right. I think the toughest editors in terms of grammar and punctuation and that kind of thing are high school English teachers. Oh, boy, they know every one of those rules, and they're rigorous, and they pay attention. So, but I was lucky with my cover. My wife designed the cover.
I was going to ask about the cover.
Yeah.
That's nice.
The publisher sent us 4 or 5 different covers, and they just didn't quite catch the mood of the book. So we went online and we looked at photographs, and we had some idea. Wouldn't it be good if we could get a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge at night? Because one of the key scenes in the book is of the Brooklyn Bridge at night. And so we found a nice picture like that, and then my wife took figures and superimposed those on that picture. And you see the dark pictures, the dark shadows in the cover. And then we experimented with different font. But she put it all together, so we had to grease the palm of the photographer, but he was a nice guy and quite reasonable, and we had a cover that way.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful cover.
All right.
And that's another thing that you have to really pay attention to is the cover. Because, again, you got to have something that says, hey, read me.
Oh, exactly. It's the first thing people see, of course.
Yeah.
And unless they've read a review, then they really don't know what the book is about. And you want the cover to match the book because you don't want to be deceptive.
Yep.
You know, you don't want to put something that would mislead the reader on the cover.
Yeah. Like mine is darkness up the top, and it goes into a beautiful sunny day on the bottom, and it's because of the death of my son.
Oh, yes.
And it shows you how it's coming clear again. But that's what I wanted. I told the woman, and she just bang right off the bat got it.
No, sometimes people's first impressions, first tries.
Yeah, I couldn't believe
really
it.
Pay off. Yep.
And then you have the other little problem trying to sell a book. And
I've learned more about the internet through trying to sell the book, because when you're with an independent publisher, they really don't have a sales force to put these books in bookstores.
Yeah. Yes.
So you put the books in local bookstores, and that works out all right. I've been very fortunate. People like R.J. Julia have been gracious. They put the book there. We had a launch party there, and that worked out well. But the real way that you sell books is through the internet. So you're always hunting up somebody to, well, write a review. And if it's a good review, then they post it on Amazon or Goodreads or a place like that.
Yeah.
And then I watch my sales ranking go up a little bit every time I get a review, and 3 or 4 people buy the book, whatever it is.
Do you do book signings?
I do book signings at the local library, at the book launch at a bookstore. I had a big event, was fortunate enough to be included in Palm Beach, Florida.
Really?
The public library system there runs a program of introducing authors every month. And Lisa Scottolini, who's a big best-selling New York Times author, and a panel of debut authors, 4 or 5 others of us, 6 altogether, were on a panel in Palm Beach. And Lisa Scottolini was very gracious. She was a nice, smart woman who gave us all plenty of time and discussion on the panel. And so we had an audience of 350 people, and then we got to sell our books afterwards.
So you can get your book on Amazon.
On Amazon.
R.J. Julia.
R.J. Julia.
And the
Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
You can write to the publisher, Oak Tree Press. And then I'm going to be at the Lebanon Fair in August.
So am I.
Oh, that's right, of course. And you've arranged that really for us. August 8th, if you want to see the authors in person.
It's going to be a great show. And we also going to be at, let's see, Lebanon and...
Bozrah Farmers Market?
Bozrah.
Bozrah Farmers Market.
Bozrah Farmers Market.
That's later on.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I've never been there.
Yeah, I haven't either, but this should be a... Book signing events are a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people. I don't sell a lot of books, but I enjoy myself. I think that's half it. You got to be.
Oh yeah, you got to like people, and you got to be wide open with them.
And you get to work with other authors, and get to meet them and greet them, and which is, and I have to put a plug in for Kappa because that's what we do, and it's such a great group that we're all in the same business, but we're not in competition.
No, it works out very well. I enjoy our monthly meetings, and we're getting sponsored in 3 places because we're going to go to the Big E through Kappa.
Are you? Yeah, that's a good time too.
That's great.
Thousands of people walking through there.
Wow.
And our next meeting for Kappa is Monday, the 20th.
Good.
And it's going to be at somebody's house. We're having a potluck dinner meeting, and we have it's near the ocean, down in Line.
Oh,
South
all right.
Line,
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great meeting. And I just got my 2-minute warning, so I'm almost done here. I got a couple of announcements to make. Thank you for your watching. I appreciate the emails. And don't forget to send it to me at santostom@comcast.net. And I got a great lineup coming up. Is Tish Rabe, who writes children's books, Cat in the Hat books.
Oh, wow.
She's the actual author. She's neat. And Dr. Dave and Mary DeSano is coming on. She has Spiritual Healers. That's next week. That may even be an hour show, so you might want to set your DVR for it. It'll be on at 9 o'clock next Thursday. It's going to be a great show. We also have coming up Kevin and Melissa Brault, who own Mystic Organics. And you'll learn about inhaling oxygen. They have oxygen tanks down there for different things, hangover or feeling good.
Oh, wow.
And it's very interesting. I love interesting people.
No, exactly.
The next Kappa meeting is going to be, or Southeast Kappa is July 20th. Contact me for the information. Special thank you for SEC TV for broadcasting our show. And tonight, as every Thursday, the VFW is giving away chowder and clam cakes. And we're also having a lobster bash on July 25th. There's also a children's meal that's not on the poster. But for $25, you get a double baked lobster. And for $13, you get a single lobster. Great program. And it's to benefit the vets. And what else we got? July 25th. Okay, we just did that one. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next week. Don't forget, you should be cuddling up. Get a copy of this book, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks for being on.
Thank you very much, Tom. I enjoyed it.
And I hope to see you Monday night.
Okay.